Hello and welcome to the World Environment Day 2026 special series of the Hatua Podcast. This is part of the Haki Ni Yetu Project, funded by the European Union in Kenya, implemented by the Haki Ni Yetu Consortium that brings together the Kiosk Foundation, Inform Action, and the CSO Network. And today, we are privileged to have guests from Kilifi and Kwale County. Karibu.
Thank you so much. My name is Elsheba Okech. I'm the coordinator for the Kwale Mining Alliance. The alliance is based in Kwale, and our major focus is to bring together stakeholders in the mining sector to champion for sustainable mining practices in Kwale County. Thank you.
Karibu.
Thank you for having me on this podcast. My name is Elfik Tosi. I'm the director and founder of 1 Million Trees for Kilifi, a climate action organization that is inspired by 3 pillars. 1, community stories. 2, climate justice. And the last one is creation of fruit orchards. Thank you.
Karibuni. And today's podcast is themed Grounded in Justice, Mining, Climate Action, and Community Voice. Elsheba, tell us, what does mining mean when it comes to environment and social well-being in Kwale County?
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. Mining in coastal counties exists in a space of both opportunities and vulnerability. We are privileged to have experienced large-scale mining and as well as small-scale and artisanal mining. Mm-hmm. And all these happen at different levels. If you look at large-scale mining, it is highly regulated, and many times the investors try to ensure that they follow the law. However, we also have small-scale mining that is not highly regulated, and it's where we've experienced a lot of environmental concerns. We have areas that have been mined and have not been rehabilitated. For the large scale, we have the example like for base titanium. We've seen for the first time an area that has been mined and currently undergoing rehabilitation. When we talk about socio-economic, especially in relation to large scale mining, we are seeing a lot of displacements because we have to pave way for mining. And therefore, the social ties kind of, for instance, we know the coastal families, we live as extended families. So if you are displaced, a family that originally owned 25 acres, once displaced, you cannot find another place to get 25 acres for you to continue living as a family. In terms of social or economic, as much as there are other benefits, economic benefits that come with large-scale mining, but there are also some challenges that also come along with it. For instance, mining is something kind of new to us, and therefore the people that are able to get top jobs, lucrative, well-paying, you find that there are not so many, and many times women are disadvantaged. So you find like a lot of men are in the spaces where they earn better and they're able to interact better with the mining activities. So if you look at the places where mining is actually happening, poverty levels are high, not only in coastal counties, but also in Kenya. And because of that, you find that that's why I was saying that it operates in a space of vulnerability. It means that when it comes to negotiation, negotiation about compensation and the like, someone who has never maybe used $1 million, for them, when you tell them that you're going to give you $1 million, it is a lot of money. And therefore, it makes it difficult for them to negotiate and also to make sure that it reflects the benefit they are going to get from the mining activities.
Okay. And that takes us to the next conversation, Elsheba. Many times when you talk about when there is news of discovery of large deposits of minerals, we had titanium in Kwale. We also have niobium in Kwale, which is a strategic mineral in the energy transition. Many times we talk about the GDP, the growth of GDP in a country. We talk about the revenue. We talk about the improved livelihoods. We talk about the strategic repositioning of Kenya as a country in the global space when it comes to economic and development. And so we go back. Why in many of these conversations, we talk about the growth. the profits. But many times we forget about the communities. And so why do you think it's important that as we're having these conversations on economic development, we need to look at the social well-being of the community? Why do you think it's important for us to talk about climate action? Why do you think it's important for us to talk about community voices, participation, and social justice in all these conversations? Do you think it's important that as we have these conversations, we need to have this other conversation on climate action, rehabilitation, and others as part of the conversation and not as a side agenda?
Yes, it's very important. First, it's important to talk about climate action because minerals are non-renewable. And the process of extracting these minerals normally does harm to the environment. And therefore, if we are not careful about talking about climate action, it means that we are not going to we are going to make it difficult for the future generation to enjoy to benefit from the current resources that we have. And therefore, it is important. It needs to be part of it. When we're talking of community voices, these minerals exist in a community. And as I mentioned earlier, the challenges that they exist in areas where their poverty levels are very high. And the Constitution of Kenya is very clear about public engagement and public participation. We have a right to be involved on issues that affect us. And therefore, to make sure that we fulfill this requirement of the Constitution of Kenya, it is very important to ensure that from the beginning to the end, the communities are involved. And they're not just be there to be seen, but to give their voice, because they have lived there, they know the experiences they have, and they expect to benefit from the mining processes. If they do not sit on the decision-making tables, it means that the decisions that are going to be made are decisions that are not going to meet their desires and aspirations. And at the end of the day, we are going to have conflict because they feel like the investor is doing opposite of what they need to expect. But if you have them on the table from the word go, you will understand them. You will easily get the social license and be able to make sure that whatever the investor is doing is not in conflict with the communities that live within that particular area.
Thank you, Elsheba. And you have highlighted the paradox that in many resource-rich areas, we have high poverty levels in the host communities. And this is a challenge not just in small-scale mining, but also in large-scale mining. In the small-scale or in the artisanal mining sector, like you've seen in Kilifi, it's a very big challenge for the governments to regulate the operations or to even earn revenue from small-scale mining. And on the other end, we have the large-scale mining. And most of the times, local governments and local investors do not have the capacity and muscles to invest in large-scale mining. And this means that we have to bring on board multinational corporations who enjoy tax amnesties. We also have the challenge of globalization of profits. They are registered in their mother countries, and the profits are repatriated back to their mother countries. And that means we are left as either mere providers of minerals or mere providers of labor. And so, Elfik, what are some of the challenges that communities keep highlighting when it comes to the mining and extractive sector, both for the small scale and large scale mining? What are their everyday complaints?
Thank you very much for the question. In Kilifi, the communities are raising a lot of alarm, especially when you start talking about land degradation in areas like Kokotoni, where limestone mining is at large scale. Apart from land degradation, areas like Rabai, which is having the processing of cement, a lot of people in that village, when we were working there during our project, Calling Back Life to Kokotoni, we met a lot of people who had died, but the community did not understand the cause of the death. But after looking on the health statistics, we saw that most people in those areas are suffering from cancer. And 50% of the diseases reported in the dispensaries and hospitals are upper respiratory diseases, which means these are diseases which are directly linked to the mining that is taking place in that area. And the community does not know that this is happening. Apart from that, the schools that are situated close to that, you find it teaches a time where the teacher postpones classes because of noise pollution and blasting in the mining areas. Also, you find that children do not go to school because they are going to get some few coins, and the mining companies like it that way because they make a lot of money when they use cheap labor. So these are just some of the problems affecting the people who are living in areas that mining is taking place.
Thank you. And maybe picking from Elfic's issues on impact, how is the impact experienced within the community? And I'm looking at the gender diversity, the gender issue diversity, and any other aspects within the community, because the community is not a homogeneous population. It is diverse. So how are these impacts experienced across the different segments of the community?
Yes, the impacts are experienced differently. For instance, for women with disability, for women who are married into that locality, for a woman who is born and raised there, and a woman who has been married to that particular area, they all experience differently. And one, it is because of the societal beliefs and norms. For instance, we believe that girls are not supposed to inherit. We also believe that those who are married there do not have a share. And it becomes worse for a woman who maybe was married there and did not give forth children. So this impact is felt differently depending on the level of awareness, depending of the level of exposure. Because for me, who has experienced a full mining cycle, could be different for someone else who is yet to experience. And therefore, when it comes to engagement, I'll engage from an informed viewpoint. But for someone else, it's likely to be different. So the bottom line is that the most vulnerable are women and children, and also persons with disability. And we are likely to find out that these are groups of people who are normally left out during the decision-making period. For instance, all the meetings about introduction of a new company or introduction about if the investor is willing to take up land, because all our titles are in the names of our husbands or of the men. So once they want to enter into an engagement, most times it is the men who are called to the table to discuss to these particular meetings. So it is high time we find all these groups get organized and have a common voice. Because if we don't come together and have a common voice, then it means that we are likely to experience more negative impacts with continued mining activities.
And I think this brings us to the importance of gender equity, disability, diversity, and social inclusion in the mining and extractive industry, which is something I think as a country we have not been able to adopt for a long time. Our reports, our indicators have been general without looking into the differences within our communities. And maybe it's time that as we are doing the environmental and social impact assessments, we need to check into how do we address this? How do we, the reporting, the action needs to be guided by the diversity within our communities. And so if you look at Kenya as a country, do we have enough laws and policies to govern the mining and extractive industry to ensure that the environment and the people are protected from the possible harms of mining?
Yes, the laws are there, and there are many. For instance, I mentioned the Constitution of Kenya, the MCA 2015, the Mining Act of 2016, the mining regulations, the National Action Plan on Business and Human Rights. All these laws and legislations are there. However, we have a challenge in implementation and also coordination. For instance, we were talking about the regulation of the small-scale mining. So all these laws are there and they are good. The problem is implementation. And also, I think the government needs to invest more in ensuring that the State Department of Mining is well funded and is well resourced, including the human resource, to ensure that they are able to implement these laws.
And maybe just a quick one, Elsheba, maybe what should NEMA do different to protect the people and the planet in their ECR and licensing processes?
Yes, the complaints that are there are that once a company is issued with the NEMA license, you'll hear communities complaining that we were never involved. So it means that before NEMA issues a license, they need to do a due diligence to ensure that they go back to the community to confirm that indeed the communities were engaged. Indeed, this report speaks to the realities on the ground. I think that will really help, and it will make people feel confident and encouraged to attend these meetings, other than attending a meeting and then when you read the report, you get two different things on what was agreed within the meetings.
From your perspective, Elfic, are the existing laws and policies adequate to protect the people of Kilifi from the environmental and social harms of mining?
Yeah, if I bring the question home, in Kilifi, from the laws that have been set there, you find that the things that the grievances that are brought out by the community members are all answerable using the policies that is there. The only missing part is the implementation of those policies. For example, the Mining Act 2016 clearly states that we must have the community development agreements before and during when the companies are operating. But funny enough, in Kilifi, we have less than 2 of them. And the regions in Kilifi where the mining is taking place is more than 10. So we can't say that the laws and policies are not enough, while the ones that are there are not fully implemented. Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe I can highlight that was in 2025. The Ministry of Mining realized that Kilifi has a lot of quarrying going on, and many of the quarry operators were operating with permits, and the mineral rights of a permit do not obligate the rights holder to have a community development agreement with the local community. And from that is what informed the Ministry of Mining to push all quarry operators to operate with a mining license. And this gave them the obligation of operating a CDAC, to have an agreement with the local communities on the CDA, and to also ensure that the mining companies remit the required percentages to the community accounts. And so this, to an extent, has helped solve a few of the issues within Kilifi County. But if you look to the everyday life experiences of the community in Kilifi, do you think the local mwananchi knows where to report whichever kind of complaint that arises from mining? Do they know where to report? Do they know how long it takes to solve the issue? Do they know where to escalate the issue in case it is not resolved?
You find that especially in mining, the issues that take place, they take a long time for them to bring out the picture. For example, when you talk about air pollution, if you find a community where poverty levels are very high, for them to realize that their air polluted, it takes a lot of time until someone suffers from cancer and they go there diagnosed and then they lose loved ones. That is the time they start asking questions. So it does not come immediately. And for them to start talking about air pollution, they are supposed, first of all, to meet their basic needs, which most of them lack. So they don't have that immediate structure that they can put their grievances there for them to reach either the mining company, the ministry, or the stakeholders who are supposed to solve their problems. What most of them know, which they are shared with us, is if they have grievances, they go to the chief. And the chief is not the entire structure of solving those problems. So the structures are missing. And from our experience is that those structures have been intentionally been tampered with or been prevented from being formed. Why? Because the way the companies they operate, they have a lot of loopholes or gaps that they have not met. For example, health-wise or protective gears, they don't have them. So if they allow these communities to have the structures to report this, then most of them are going to close down. So they use either leaders to prevent the community from forming these structures, or they use the same community members by giving them tokens. For example, you'll find a mining company which makes billions in profit. They wait for holidays and other days and give communities foodstuffs, which cost 0.00 something of their profits. Now, if you tell those community members that this industry has more things that is supposed to bring us benefits to the community, some of them will side with the company, saying that this company is doing a lot. Why? They don't actually have that information of how much percent are they supposed to get as benefit from the community. So the companies use either leaders and also some of the community members to prevent these structures from being formed. Yeah.
Thank you. And so this takes us to the need for a shift from corporate social responsibility to the business and human rights angle, or corporate governance in the mining and extractive industry. And so it means that there is need for a multi-stakeholder collaboration to ensure that mining companies remain accountable to the communities they operate in and to the government, which is supposed to regulate them. And so that means if the safety of the workers is compromised, if the safety of the community is compromised, then that means there is need for the Ministry of Mining to work together with NEMA and the Department of Occupational Safety and Health to ensure that there is safety of workers, safety of employees, safety of environment, and general well-being of the community. And so maybe Elshebe can tell us, what practical measures can we employ to improve accountability in the mining and extractive industry, especially on the part of the mining companies?
There's so much that can be done, and some of them are provided for by the law. For instance, having the mandatory mine rehabilitation bond. I think that is one of the things that has pushed Base Titanium to continue doing operation because to do rehabilitation. And if you look at these small scale companies, they do not do that. And because there's no money somewhere that you need to ensure that you rehabilitate and get your bond back, I think that's what they're not doing. Then we have community monitoring or community monitors. And for them to effectively do monitoring, we need to make sure that we have access to the mining agreements because for you to monitor, you have to have something as a reference to. And if these agreements are not open to the public, it makes it very difficult. Then we need to have clear benefit sharing mechanism. Just like what Elfik said, is that just because a company is providing something, it does not give them a license to violate human rights. For example, to pollute the environment. We need to clearly understand that this is the approach, this is the mechanism, and the benefit that is there, it is there for the sake of ensuring that also community benefit from the resources, but it's not giving the company a leeway to violate human rights. And also we need to have grievance and complaint systems in place. There are companies that have liaison committees. As much as they are influenced by the tokenism, and there are those who may feel that I cannot speak out because at the end of this meeting, I'm supposed to get transport reimbursement from the company. So we need to have very clear grievance and complaint systems in place so that it makes it easy for community to raise concerns and the companies to address those concerns in good time. In that way, we'll be able to save lives and to make sure that we do not create more harm to the environment, and also stronger environmental audits. And I think the environmental laws are very clear that we need to do annual environmental audits. It means that the government has to make sure that they push the companies to make sure that they do the annual environmental audits. And if there are any, if there's anything that can be addressed, it's addressed in good time. Yes.
Thank you, Elsheba. And so with all these suggestions on improving the accountability for mining companies, I think we need to go back to the whole issue around climate justice, that those who do less in harming the environment should not carry the biggest burden of climate change or of environmental degradation. And so this takes us to Kilifi County. What needs to be done to improve community participation in the mining and extractive industry? How do we how do we amplify the voices of the community? How do we improve the social license? How do we bring back the integrity of the social license in mining?
On that issue, first of all, we have to ask ourselves, why is it that the community is not fully participating in making decisions that are touching their daily life? And from the few time I've been to the community, especially Kokotoni, Rabai, and Gongoni, where we are having a lot of raw materials, which is building 90% of the coast region, and the community is not benefiting. One thing that I realize is the community there are people that have suppressed their voices, and the community is afraid of talking out things that are affecting them. And it's not the community itself. There was a time I visited a certain chief and sub-chief in the area, and we were going to seek permission to talk to the community about a certain mining site. And to our surprise was, while we just mentioned the site and the name of the company, the sub-chiefs and the chief told us, we cannot help you because even if we do, our jobs are at stake. So if the people who have power are afraid to talk about these issues, you can think about the normal mwananchi who is looking upon those people to protect them. So one of the things that we are supposed to do, we have to create a lot of awareness to our community members, because the information does not flow to that person. Because if the information flows to those people and they are well aware of what is supposed to be done, and they group themselves, they are able to articulate their issues and solve them. But the information does not flow. So we have to create channels in which we are supposed to bring the information to the local mwananchi. And two, for the stakeholders who are supposed to protect these people, they are supposed to be given, I may call it protective, just like safe houses. If you go and talk about things that the company sees that either they are going to cause them lose profits or they are going to cause them to close down, where does this person go after giving out those information? Just like we have protective houses or safe houses for issues like GBV, then we are supposed to bring such to this area, because the area is affecting an entire community. Think about mining taking place and the entire community is suffering from cancer. So it is an issue that requires a lot of leaders to come together to see, are we going to put resources here so that if people come out and speak, they are fully protected? Thank you.
Yes, and you've raised a very critical concern that there is need to balance development and well-being in the community. And so this is the reason why, as a country, we had the National Action Plan on Business and Human Rights, which is a localization of the United Nations Guiding Principles on Business and Human Rights that have key 3 pillars: the state duty to protect, the corporate responsibility to respect and human rights, and the community's access to remedy for grievances related to business operations, and this includes the mining and extractives. And so in trying to involve the communities or increasing the benefit for communities, in Kenya we have the Community Development Agreement Regulation, the CDA mining regulations, and through that we have CDAs. Mining companies have established agreements with communities, and it is implemented by a committee. And these committees are gazetted. So in your opinion, Elsheba, based on your experience and interaction with the CDAs in Kwale County, do you feel they represent the communities they're supposed to represent, or are there gaps that need to be addressed so that they can effectively amplify the voices of the community they're representing?
Yes, thank you so much. The law is clear. However, there are challenges of implementation. Number one, when it comes to defining the community, that's where the problem begins. So it means that even if, for example, if you look at the CDSC's under base titanium, if you look at how identification of the CDSC members was in the first regime,
yes,
it is different with the second.
Yes.
And what I saw is that it depended on who has a voice. Even when it came to deciding on the percentage of the share, because the law says that a company may have more than one CDSC,
Yes.
and it is clear that it is 1%.
Yes.
But how this 1% is shared between these three or more than one, it is not provided for by the law.
Yes.
And therefore, we see a lot of the number of politicians is very high. The CDSC committee, the CDA committees, and therefore it means that the politicians are able to manipulate and to make their voices reflect in the decisions that are made in the CDSCs. So the way it is currently, it is highly politicized, and we even saw it during the election of the CDSCs.
Yes.
Politicians influence the positions that are meant to be positions for the community. The politicians also decide, because the community is not clearly defined,
Yes.
they're able to decide that we are going to get the women representative from village A, and we are going to leave village B out in this election, but considered village A. And therefore, this means that at the end of the day, there will be a lot of grievances.
There isn't for clear definition.
Yes.
Who is the mining community?
Yes.
What is the radius?
Yes, what is the radius? When you're talking about the villages that are going to represent, to front people to the CDSC committee, which villages? So as it is now, there are conflicts from other villages who felt like we have been left behind because we did not participate in identification of a representative to represent our issues in the committees. Number two, the expectations were also high, also from the community members. But these expectations to some community members, they are not met. Because, as I said, that it is highly politicized, we have a lot of politicians feel that the money was being channeled to projects that could be supported through either the CDF or maybe the county government. For instance, we saw money going to construction of classrooms, dormitories, the roads, access roads, which is a function of the either county government or the CDF. So it means that yes, we saw money was used to the projects that you can see, but we can do better, but ensuring that we clearly define the community, and we also clearly define the projects that can be implemented under CDC. Otherwise, the way it is, we are likely to find that the politicians, because they influence the members that are coming to sit in that particular committee, at the end of the day, we have programs, projects that could be implemented by CDF, like we've seen the way it was done in the CDC that we have under Best Shame Limited.
Yes.
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 If you just allow me to add some
Yes,
ice
please.
on the cake, at least congratulations, Kwale, because they started formation of the CDA some time back. But in Kilifi, the first one was just gazetted this year. And for the election of the committee members, it had been cancelled 4 times because they thought it is just another form of getting an employment. So we had a lot of wrangles during the elections because every community member want to be in that committee because they think we are going to get salary. Now, the missing factor there is they don't really understand that they are the link between the community, the government, and the mining company. So if you find someone who is looking for a job to sit in that committee, then is not going to link that part well. That is where the situation where money that is coming from the industries is building schools comes in, because those committee members do not really understand what are their functions and where are these resources supposed to be channeled. Yeah.
Yes. And I think that takes us back to the issues of knowledge gap within the regulating agencies. You realize that officials from the regulating agencies need to be conversant with what the law says and what the policies say for them to effectively regulate or control the sector. And if they're not knowledgeable about these laws and policies, then that means they cannot regulate adequately. They cannot inform the communities about the rights or the available mechanisms for raising grievances. And I think this is a challenge that maybe we need to address as a country. And maybe what urgent action should the government do to ensure that mining and extractive activity do not interfere with the environment or the welfare of the people?
And a good example if you're talking about affecting people, if you bring it home to Kilifi, you find that Kilifi from Gongoni, where we are having harvesting of salt, even though it's not classified as a mineral, all the way to Jaribuni to Kokotoni, you find that during every quarter of every year, you find we are having billions of profits the company are announcing that they have made. But when you go to the ground, you find these people doesn't have shelter. You talk to the elderly people in that community, they tell you, back then, before this industry came here, we used to have very good harvests. All our trees, for example, minazi, the coconut, all their shoots are dying off. A good example is at Tarabai. There was a river that had been diverted to go and cool down machineries in an industry. So all this comes back to integrity. We have to push these mining companies and the officials that are supposed to oversee these mining companies to have integrity so that business should not subside human rights. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's a very important point, that it's very important that we bring back the integrity and we bring due diligence among regulating agencies to ensure that human rights are not violated in the pursuit of profits and revenues for the government. And maybe Elsheba, what urgent action should CSOs take to ensure that mining and extractives does not compromise on the environmental stewardship?
Thank you so much. Maybe if I can add from the government perspective before I talk about the CSOs, the National Action Plan on Business and Human Rights is very clear about the role of government, the duty to protect. And if they're able to execute that role as it should be, then it will really bring a big difference. For instance, ensuring that all companies do human rights due diligence even before they're issued with the licenses. So for the part of CSOs, number one, you understand that CSOs, the civic space is shrinking. So the government should also ensure that the human rights defenders are given the protection that is required, and not like what you are seeing today when you try to raise your voice. It's when now the government comes for you and also the investors comes for you. So we need a lot of protection, both from the government and also to ensure that whatever concerns that are being raised are not aimed at tarnishing the name of the company. But if the company is able to listen and to act on these concerns, it also builds their reputation and helps them get the social license also from the community. So the association need to ensure that we're equipped with the right and correct information, and we also share the same to the community. We also support by ensuring capacity building of communities, and also, like for instance, what we've done as Kwale Mining Alliance, we ensure that we also train local human rights defenders because they interact day to day with this environment, with these companies, and they're the first people to get such information. And therefore, if we have so many people who are informed and equipped with the right skills, it reduces a burden to the few whom we depend maybe to address more than one concern. So that's what I can say, that we need to continue capacity building more human rights defenders, especially at the local level. We need to continue engaging to ensure that we have the correct policies, and also to make sure that the policies and laws that are there are well implemented.
Yes, thank you, Sheba. And I think you've brought up a very good point on the need for sustainable social accountability by training local communities to speak for themselves. And this is very important in the face of shrinking civil space and shrinking civic resourcing. And so communities can be able to speak for themselves even when there are no external voices or external financials to support the call for action. And so in one word, what do you have to say about climate action?
It's time to act. Yeah.
Elsheba?
What I can say is that we all need each other as stakeholders, either as a community, as a government, as an investor. And we need to work together in collaboration, in partnership. so that we are able to enjoy the resources sustainable for the current generation and the future generation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. As we come to the end of this podcast, it is clear that mining and extractives cannot be a conversation isolated from environmental degradation and stewardship, and cannot be separated from the social well-being of the community. It is important that local communities share the benefits of mining and extractives, and we reduce the negative impacts or the burden on mining and the environment, looking in meeting the needs of the present generation and meeting the needs of the future generations. And so this is a call for collaborative engagement between the government, corporates, and the local communities in ensuring that we are equally sharing the burden of mining and extractives, and we are equally sharing the benefits of mining within our communities. This podcast is part of the World Environment Day 2026 series of the Hatua Podcast, which is part of the Haki Ni Yetu Project, funded by the European Union in Kenya, implemented by the Haki Ni Yetu Consortium that brings together Kio's Foundation, Inform Action, and the CSO Network. Karibu.